Look at me and my monocle and my tiny hat. See? Cultured. As long as it's not a tiny mustache, you'll probably be all right. Hello friends, trace amounts of science. We're back into some r/Neckbeard stories today. I realized that Val sort of got left in the dust with like the whole Nasty Norman series and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't want it to be that way, so we're going to open it back up, do part number 2 today. I hope that it will be thoroughly enjoyed, and let's get into it right now. Also, hey, thanks for being here. Nasty Norman's Hairy Summer, Newfangled Love Letters. Was that just a text message? Nasty Norman intro, part 2, unsolicited newfangled love letters. After we left off, HUD had discovered Nasty Norman's copy of the Tiny Mustache Man's book. Wolf, the white boy who obnoxiously used African-American vernacular, was dropping N-bombs left and right because, well, he was notoriously wont to do that. Yeah, he got away with it the first time, and he's like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. I gotta say it every sentence. It's getting a little weird. The rest of the cast was loudly mocking Norman's Tiny Mustache Man paraphernalia, as well as his exceedingly awkward behavior, and Kip, the director, had just re-entered the theater after having escorted Thomas, the putrid drag queen, into the lobby. Over a barrage of N-bombs, Kip shouted to Norman, "Oh, we're done for the day. I'll be in touch." Norman pretended to be confused. "I didn't hear you, Kip. I forgot my hearing aids." Norman did not wear hearing aids, and Kip knew this. In an effort to defend Dion's honor, both Sheila and HUD ascended the steps to the stage, mean-mugging Norman as they unwittingly approached his fart cloud. "Oh yeah, breathe that in. That's parts of me." Norman tended to break wind when he got nervous, you see. I mean, that just happens when you get old, you know? The bunghole's not as tight as it once was. The wannabe codger snatched his beloved book from HUD, shoved both the book and the prop cane under his arm, and spryly scurried out the stage door, knowing damn well that he had just crossed a shitload of lines and that these rowdy whippersnappers were unlikely to ever recognize the resplendent badassery of his venerable expertise. Which is basically just grifting his way into a job. Norman's a grifter! When HUD and Sheila reached his fart cloud, they stopped in their tracks to recoil from the stench, and Norman was able to get away without being forced to defend his taste in literature, or his tiny little pants tent, for that matter.
It's actually an optical illusion. It's the pattern on the pants. It's not flattering in the...
How do you run with a bone on, dude? That takes talent. Especially if you're in jeans or something. Oh my god. Anyway, Norman hurried to his sensible station wagon, slid in, slammed the door, and floored it. Of course, it's a Volkswagen for his Volk, you see. Well, he went about as fast as that hunk of junk would go, muttering to himself as his ride sputtered and puttered on the way home. Upon entering the safety of his musty old rickety cluttered little house, Norman unsnapped his red vinyl suspenders, removed his grayish pants, and beat it furiously to the thought of that actress who had given him an almost imperceptible semi. I know this because my immortal cousin's a fly on Norman's wall, and she told me all about that furious session at a fly family reunion. Yeah, nobody wanted to hear about it. Or maybe flies like it because it's disgusting. I don't really know how the whole thing works.
I am a fly on the wall, a fly who's seen it all.
What I do know is what red suspenders mean, and yeah, he's not just reading that book, of the Tiny Mustache Man book. He seems to believe in it quite firmly. He's dressing the part. Anyway, back at the spring stage after Norman's hasty exit, several cast members continued shouting accusations of Norman's affiliation with those notorious German bad guys, and Wolf continued to defend his honorary blackness, working the N-word in as much as possible, although he was avoiding the hard R. Yeah, of course. Kip shouted, "Ugh, silence!" The N-bombs gradually faded away. The director shook his head. "What did I tell you crazy kids about that word? You don't say it unless it's in the script. I don't care what your ethnic background is. Wolf, if you don't knock it off, you're out of the show. If you could speak like a white person on stage, then you can speak like a white person off stage." Oh, and how, pray tell, does a white person speak? I love to hear this out. He does the thing that all black comedians do. "Oh, I'm a white person. Hopey dopey do." Nobody talks like that, motherfucker. If white people want to talk with a little bit of flavor, that's fine. That's fine. I like to sprinkle it in a little bit. A lot of it, actually. Wolf did seem offended, and he said, "Yo, Kipster bro, you know your boy's from Compton. The white voice is the fake one." No, it's not. Call your mom right now. Talk to her. I know you're not going to speak to her like that. But Kip just sighs and rests his forehead in his palm. Hud had taken over the razzing as he jumped down from the stage. "Your ass is from Sherman Oaks, you anal-probing mini-molder." Wolf bristled. Several people within earshot laughed at Hud's insult. Kip composed himself and projected his voice to address the theater full of riled-up hippies. "Look, I don't care where you come from. I don't care what kind of language you use when you're not in this theater, but unless you're reading it from the script, you put a lid on the N-word. That goes for you too, Hud. Don't say it, even if you think you're allowed to. If you say it, then Wolf's gonna want to say it, and I'm up to here with him."
You know what? You guys have me up to here.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here.
And don't say the German N-word either, because we're not doing cabaret until next year. Sounds like a good time, honestly. With that clever change in subject, several of the cast members shrieked with delight at the thought of being in cabaret, and Kip smugly shushed them. "Shh! But right now, we're here to put on the best damn production of Hair that this part of the country's ever seen. Circle up on stage. We're reading lines this evening." An explanation of the overuse of that horrid word is undoubtedly due. The N-word, with a hard R no less, appears several times in the Hair script in both the dialogue and the songs. For the most part, only the black characters say it, although the entire cast has to sing it in song during the number 3500. Upon the musical rehearsals that took place during the previous week, many of the non-black cast members, who admitted that they weren't black, expressed extreme discomfort with that lyric. That old chestnut, eh? That white guilt is ingrained in there nice and deep. It's a song. It's in the script. Get over it. Or don't do the show if you really feel that guilty deep down inside. But you know, at the end of the day, everybody's gonna be like, "Well, I guess I could." It's all performative. Like, yes, I know I'm going to say it, but I just have to put up, like, some amount of resistance first. So it can seem like I'm the good one. Among all the white people, I'm the best one. It's funny to me, honestly. Maybe a little offensive too, but who cares about that? Anyway, this was one of the main reasons that Kip wanted to bring in Norman as the historical consultant, even though Kip knew damn well that Norman was younger than he tried to act, and even though Kip was fully aware that Norman's social skills were, well, yeah, they were piss awful. Kip had some misguided faith in Norman's allegedly extensive historical knowledge, which he never showcased at all. And the director was confident that Norman could assure the cast that the word wasn't so utterly taboo in the 1960s. Yep, definitely no racial tension in the 1960s. You go down to the jazz club and smoke grass with the Negro jazz musicians. It's a regular occurrence. Happens all the time. Nobody's gonna bat an eye. Oh my god. Might be spicy for some, but it's within context. Everything's normal and fine here. We're carrying on with the story. But Norman had pretty much blown it with his bone-on and his very obviously well-loved copy of the Mustache Man's Manifesto. Later that evening, in a pitiful attempt to do some damage control, Norman nevertheless sent a mass email to the entire cast, and I have kept it to copy and paste. Oh, look at this. Receipts. I love it. To Kip's hair cast. It is my deep regret that I may have inadvertently insulted your play. Please understand that I take history very seriously, and I can be something of a stickler when it comes to anachronisms. Bro, you are an anachronism, okay? The United States was in a state of upheaval during and immediately following the war in Vietnam. But despite the fictionalized glory of hippies, Timothy Leary, substance use, protests, and so forth, most Americans maintain their patriotism and their civility in those days. I think even in these days, most people are, fairly civil. There's a portion of people that are completely deranged, and maybe that portion is growing larger. That portion is going to make me long for the days of carefree, drug-addled hippies, aren't they? It's a really weird feeling. I don't want to feel this way. And anyway, keep in mind that you are all portraying a rare and revolting exception, but I am nevertheless happy to lend my expertise to infuse your production with some authenticity. Yeah, it wouldn't be authentic at all without me, the obviously not old enough guy that lied to get this job. It would be my great honor to take your little show to the next level, and I humbly require a second chance. Isn't he just so condescending? Don't you want to just kick him in his shit, right now? Believe it or not, my little show doesn't need you. It's gonna go on whether you like it or not. If you ask for a second chance, maybe I grant it to you. If it's required, demanded, get to fuck! I understand that there's a song about London Baines Johnson in the play, but you must keep in mind that Richard Nixon, a personal hero of mine, took office in 1969. Nice. Also, why is Richard Nixon a personal hero of yours? Is it because you are not a crook? With an honorable man in the White House, society settled down considerably. Almost a graduate of Harvard Law School, almost an FBI agent, and a proficient naval officer, Nixon whipped America back into shape. I also want you ladies to know that I own a very convincing Nixon mask. What the fuck does that mean? I'll show up in a windowless van and President Nixon will jump out and grab you. I think that Norman just likes Nixon. One, because they share the same first letter of the name. That's already brownie points. But secondly, almost. He was almost all of these things, but he never quite made it. Though I will say he got closer than Norman could ever possibly. Nixon was not humorless, nor am I. He won the presidency by appearing on a delightful comedy series that you've undoubtedly heard of, Laugh-In.
Sock it to me?
Why is the audio for that clip only coming on one earphone? I didn't laugh. He seems rather humorless, stilted. He's reading from a cue card. He just wants to go outside and have a cigarette and illegally wiretap somebody's phone. What's wrong with that? I'd vote for him again. I would be honored to host a viewing party of his appearances at my humble home to any interested female cast members. Yeah, what a creepy and off-putting invitation. No, thank you. In addition to viewing Nixon's appearances on Laugh-In, I invite you to visit my pride and joy. My basement is home to a mini museum containing many fascinating artifacts from American and German history. You will be in awe, have no doubt. Yeah, just American and German women that he kidnapped, and now there are skeletons in his basement. Do not go over there is what I'm telling you. I hope this helped with your character development. Please add me on Facebook and we'll nurture our relationships through correspondence. Ladies, please message me and let me know your favorite wine, your favorite flower, and your favorite position. This is merely an icebreaker, and of course, not to be taken too seriously or too suggestively. Yeah, unless... But there is no unless. Nobody's interested. Nobody's going to invite you back. I'm loath to even interact with you again. And I would say, especially after this. I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you personally. I'm an interesting friend. I make good salads. And then there was a link to his Facebook page. Best Norm. You're not the best, Norm. You couldn't come close to being the best, Norm. Unless it's, like, best at being a creep. And then you got him dead to rights. So by the next day, none of the female cast members had friended Norman's nasty ass on Facebook. And the only response to his message was from Wolf. He said, you make good salads? I toss me salads, mofo. Peace. Does he know what that means? I guess he does.
I'm an ass eater anyway, so I might as well just eat your...
So Norman snooped on Kip's page and sent friend requests to all the female cast members in Hair. When none of them accepted, Norman sent another message. He meant to send it only to the females, but he cocked up and sent it to everybody, including Kip. Nasty Norman figured he could intertwine some negging, as the cool guys on the internet call it, with some good old-fashioned inveigling in the hopes of landing himself a hot date. And for those that don't know, inveigling is to persuade by deception or trickery. I like how Val always slips a $10 word in there. And then she slips a super chat in the chat. A $10 word plus like actual $10? That's almost $20. Anyway, Norman's email is written as such. Females! I am a nice guy. We know. I am in no way affiliated with the Tiny Mustache Man Party or any modern permutation thereof. Then explain the red suspenders. I'm just saying. Red suspenders, red shoelaces, it means something. I would, however, enjoy spending an evening with a lady who's not so uptight that she can't discuss the life of a famous historical figure in a civilized manner with a gentleman over a bottle of her favorite wine, and I could be that gentleman. In your dreams. And do not let my age sway you. I am virile. Gross, dude. If you want to put on airs and pretend like it's not the thing that we all know it is, then you need to keep up the illusion, okay? You don't mention your virility. I definitely don't want to sleep with you, but I thought I'd mention that my seed is potent. Okay? Women my own age can't keep up, which is why I exclusively date younger women. Yeah, how many women have you actually dated that were younger than you? I bet you could count them on no hands. Your disgusting media preferences, Dexter, Mad Men, the show about the fellow who manufactures some newfangled drug that didn't exist in my day, that noise you call modern music, arcade games and so forth are sins that I can effectively correct by exposing you to the classics. There was definitely Crystal back in the day. Only bikers were into it. They called it crank, but it was out there. As for noise music, yeah, some of it can be noisy. My wife doesn't like a lot of it, but I don't change for anybody. You see, you have to learn to at least accept Animal Collective. And then, of course, he also wants to come after arcade games. You think, like, Donkey Kong? That's the height of entertainment, is it? Or is that what you want to expose these women to? The classics. You have to put a quarter in. If you don't risk anything, then you don't win anything. Anyway, he continues on. Do not sleep on me. You will regret it. Is that a threat? My museum is awe-inspiring. My Nixon mask is highly convincing. My taste in film, literature, and music will change your life if you will be so sensible as to emulate me. Oh, that's why you like young women, because you can just, like, impress upon them all the things that you like, and they pretend that they like it too, because they don't really have a fully fleshed out personality of their own. I see what you're doing here. Doesn't make it any less gross, but I do see it. Accept my friend request or live with the consequences of your own immaturity and your own uncultured existence. Oh no, uncultured? How could you say that to me? I've always been cultured. Look at me and my monocle and my tiny hat. See? Cultured. As long as it's not a tiny mustache, you'll probably be all right. Well, as soon as Kip saw this creepy-ass message, Norman was out. Correction. Norman was gently told that he was no longer part of the show and to please stop messaging the cast and please stop showing up to the theater during rehearsals. Do you think he listened to that? He's gonna be like, I didn't hear you. I needed to turn my hearing aids up. You don't wear hearing aids, Norman. We've never seen you with hearing aids, dude. But Nasty Norman indeed did show up to rehearsal later that week. Brown stubble was beginning to appear in the uneven, receding hairline that Norman had shaved into his own forehead. He hobbled along with a cane that looked like it was something out of an old man costume kit from Party City, and he always wore the same button-down shirt, complete with a pocket protector and a few ballpoint pens, the same grayish trousers, the same red vinyl suspenders to give his look some pizzazz. He never stank, so it is likely that he owned multiples of the same sensible, basic clothing items. He thinks he's a cartoon character or something like that. Who dresses the same every day? Those are the actions of a maniac. I mean, he's shown himself to be an egocentric maniac already, but this only clinches it even further for me. Anyway, try as he might, he just could not seem to get the females to converse with him as he was loitering in the lobby with most of the cast while Kip was blocking a short scene with a few actors in the theater. Norman was beyond obsessed with Dion, who wisely refused to interact with him, simply saying a frustratingly polite, "No thank you," whenever he hobbled after her with his, "Hi, may I please?" He did manage to get Chrissy to briefly talk to him, just because she felt sorry for him, at least at first, but he cocked that one right up when she asked him to explain why he did not like the music in the show. He got red in the face and sputtered, damn it, the real music didn't sound anything like that." That's right, I've listened to records from the 60s. It's like I was there. So weird. Chrissy was slowly backing away in response to Nasty Norman's overly aggravated answer. That's well advised. He's a maniac. So Nasty Norman tried to do some damage control. I'm sorry. I can prove it. Come to my house and listen to my vinyls. What's your favorite wine? Chrissy smirked. I don't know, mister. I'm only 16. She wasn't 16. She was in her 20s. She was just testing Nasty Norman, who failed with flying colors when his face lit up. He groaned his boner groan. Oh, marvelous. I hate it so much. I'm more than happy to give you a safe place to enjoy your first adult libation. Chrissy infuriatingly mimicked Dion when she cheerfully said, "No thank you," and skipped away. Yeah, you gotta skip. That's what kids do. They skip, they wear horizontally striped shirts, and maybe even a little hat with a propeller on it. Any of these 3 signs will let you know that you're dealing with a child immediately. And at that point, you need to back away, not invite them over to drink wine at your house. What the fuck? He's terrible. Can we put him against the wall now? I mean, Chrissy was lying, but he doesn't know that. So as Norman stood there, hunched over and furious, his nostrils were invaded by the ripe, slightly spicy stench of someone who obviously hadn't seen the inside of a shower for many moons. "Thomas," tapped the wannabe codger on the shoulder, and Nasty Norman spun around, tripping over his cane and staggering a bit. The very tall, very rude, very smelly boy, who also wore makeup, managed to catch the codger, but Norman hated being touched by males, fatties, or mature women, so he screeched, "Hands off!" Thomas raised his arms to give the impression of peaceful cooperation, and that only intensified the stench in the air. Well, just be careful that you're not overcome by his fro-moms. You might decide that makeup makes him look pretty good. Norman coughed, but Thomas proceeded with his question. "Mr. Tiny Mustache Man, I have a question about body hair." Thomas lifted his arms even higher, revealing 2 hairless and yet very, very stinky armpits. "Should I, get some pit merkins or something?" Merkin? My goodness. I haven't heard that in many years. I think it'd be funnier if I had hairy pits when I flashed the audience after my big song, and boys didn't shave back then, right? I mean, I know they didn't have laser. Norman's eyes began to water from the spicy stench as he forcefully insisted, "I have nothing to say about your armpits, sonny boy. I'm only interested in talking about bush." I mean, a merkin is kind of a bush. Thomas decided to mess with him and said, "Which one, Daddy or W?" Norman looked confused. "Female bush," he insisted. He says, "You don't know who the presidents are? That's insane to me." Thomas laughed. "I was trying to talk politics with you, Normie. I thought you'd be all into that boring-ass beltway shit." Yeah. He does seem like a milquetoast beltway boy, doesn't he? Norman's cheeks got rosy again as he sputtered, "There's nothing political about that type of hair." Thomas shook his head. "No, honey, I meant the presidents." And Norman huffed, "I ceased to follow politics after the vile injustice that befell Richard Nixon." And then he hobbled into the theater to go bother Kip. The vile injustice that Richard Nixon did to himself? Kip! Screeched Nasty Norman. Claude and Jeannie, whose scene Kip had been blocking, put down their scripts and snickered at the screeching, shuffling, Tiny Mustache Man fan. Kip turned and glared at Nasty Norman. "We're working, Norm. I told you to stay home." Norman didn't seem at all apologetic for interrupting. "Kip, I have much to say to the women about their public hair. It's important for that scene where they take all their clothes off." And Norman again groaned, his boner groan. Kip sighed. "It doesn't matter, Norman. I've already talked to everybody about that scene. Now please just leave." But Norman was locked in. "I have some vintage adult photographs from the time." Kip ignored the nattering about Norman's nauseating nography and turned his attention back to the actors on stage. "Take it from astral projection. Ignore this man." Scumbanger stepped in and steered Norman toward the stage door. Norman recoiled. "Don't touch!" "Okay, then leave of your own volition, and then I don't touch." Scumbanger did take his hands off Nasty Norman's shoulders, but still managed to force the skinny man to shuffle away, as Scumbanger was also on the brutish side. A nervous fart slipped noisily through Norman's flat butt. Jeannie lost her place in the scene and doubled over with laughter. Did that old tiny mustache man guy just like fart? Claude caught the contagious giggles, as did Scumbanger, who somehow became even more intimidating now that he was laughing. There's some malice to that laughter, like he's gonna hit you with a pipe wrench once he's done. Kip slammed his script down. God damn it, Norman, I said get out of here! You're distracting my actors! Scumbanger continued to close in on the shuffling fart bag. Nasty Norman knew he had lost the battle as he pitifully pleaded, Get away from me, hippie! But Scumbanger already had a plan. Hey, little man, began the smarmy pest. You want to talk about Bush, right? You want to tell me if mine's period appropriate? He reached for a zipper. You can call me Unzip It Burger. Norman, as usual, dropped his codger facade and made a spry beeline for the stage door, horrified of what the brutish hippie man might reveal if he stuck around any longer. And his flat ass continued to sputter out that nervous gas as he scurried away. But was this the last of Nasty Norman? No, of course not. He's nothing if not determined. That's a great look for anybody except for him. Nasty Norman had decided that he was fully in love with Dion. Chrissy wasn't really his type, but he assumed that she had a V-card and figured she wouldn't be able to tell that he was shamefully inexperienced for a man his age. So he decided that she'd be worth betting just for the lack of pressure that her delicate age would afford him. Yeah, he's going against the wall. Done and done. Let's make it happen. But Norman did feel the need to prove to any of the females who'd been openly rude to him that he was, in fact, a bona fide catch. Honestly, he'd have gleefully taken any of the females in the cast to bed, seeing as none of them were fatties and all of them appeared to be under his age limit. Remember that this is happening in the early 20-tweens before body positivity was a thing. If you were expected to move gracefully and appear scantily clad on stage during that time, there was an unspoken weight limit. I don't think that's the sort of thing that's gone away, OP. And it's still there waiting in the corners. People won't talk about it out loud, but it rears its ugly head every once in a while. Anyway, as OP says, I'm not here to make moral judgments, since flies don't really have any concept of body image, but sound off if you've got strong feelings on the matter. Strong feelings? Not really. Definite preference, though. I'll say that. Anyway, back to Norman. He was not very self-aware. Yeah, he thinks he's the center of the universe. Egocentric people are very often unaware. They're too wrapped up in their own friggin' crap. And although experience had managed to teach Norman that he didn't always convey his intentions very clearly in person, of course, he blamed the objects of his unwanted attention for that awkwardness. Nevertheless, he felt confident that he could capture some coveted female attention with a newfangled form of communication. That's right. I'll send you an email to your Palm Pilot. And fortunately for him, Nasty Norman had gotten his hands on the call sheet. Oof. Meaning that he had everyone's phone number. Ugh. Kip, you failed in your duties. You need to keep your cast members safe. Keep the private information private. He decided to cast a wide net and send newfangled declarations of his amorous intentions to every female on that call sheet. And that was when the sausage selfies began to flood the inboxes of the female cast members, along with Tomas, although whether or not this was an accident remains unconfirmed. See? The Fromom's got a hold of him. You can't resist Toma any longer. It's just pheromone maxing, guys. No big deal. And I assure you that these were not average sausage selfies. For some reason, Nasty Norman thought it would be sexy to take these pictures in his bathroom, sitting on the toilet, with tighty-whities around his knobby knees. And the whopping sausage was obviously a very cheap prosthetic. First of all, you could see his actual tiny little twig poking into the mammoth prosthetic sheath.
Double trouble! Uh-oh, that was the original.
That's desperation on another level. Secondly, Nasty Norman was squeezing the prosthetic above the point where the natural sausage clearly ended, so his grip warped the size and shape of the faux member. Suffice to say, he wasn't fooling anyone. He also inexplicably had gray hair down there. Everyone had already figured out that he dyed the hair on his head when brown stubble began to sprout in his fake receding hairline. But why had he gone gray in the nethers? Well, he hadn't. He meticulously planned his wordless declarations of desire down to the last strand of fake old man bush. This is on another level. I hate everything that's happening here. So this time, Norman's nasty, nerdy ass was banned from the spring stage, and Kip made no effort to let his buddy down gently. Did Kip's sternness do anything to keep the sausage selfie sender away? Well, you have to read the next parts to find out. Well, I assume it's a no because there's next parts, but, you know, good cliffhanger still. Norman or none, I do hope you'll join me. We'll see Wolf, Scumbanger, and Thomas have a good old-fashioned monster of depravity contest. Too bad Maccabee's not there. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that last thing's a Cats reference, and probably somebody will appreciate it, but it went right over my head, I gotta be honest with you. The fact that this guy's still going full-on Miss Doubtfire, like, why don't you wear the Richard Nixon mask? Why don't you just try to pull that one off? Because that's really where all this is headed, right? He thinks he's such a designer of these schemes. He's got all these plots and plans that he's gonna wrap people up in his web, but really, yeah, he's just careless. He's stupid. And I think that's just something that sort of happens when you presume that you're smarter than everybody else. So good. Pride comes before the fall, as they say, and yeah, Norman's had quite a fall from grace. I'm sure he's gonna stick around being a disgusting creep. He does have all the phone numbers now. Unless everybody wants to change their phone number, yeah, he's gonna be a thorn in your side. It's quite unfortunate. I hope you enjoyed the episode on Sub-Level Friends. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Patreon and the YouTube memberships if you want to help us out month to month. We've also got a fourth wall if you'd like to see our merch. That would be a very helpful thing to do. But if you don't have any extra cash, you could share the video around. I said that once before, but I'll say it again because it's super important. Word of mouth, you can't buy something like that. Whatever you decide to do with the rest of your day, though, I hope that you will remember, friends, that you are loved, you're worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Leave that in. Leave all of that in.
Nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka. Sunlight glinting on nippon steel, folded 1,000 times, can cut through any argument, defeating illogical crimes. Dew drifting down from the heavens, settling on my blade. I quest higher into the mountains before my euphoria fades. Nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka. There I seek the sacred bird, and its flesh and I shall render, carving out the holy snack to claim that chicken tender. My fedora tips beneath the weight of the sacred task ahead. I draw on the gods of atheists and the Dawkins text I read. Nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka. Come to me, my true waifu, my slayer of the titans. Instead she speaks the sacred words and the phrase that frightens. You do know that two is a kind. You must leave this world, you have to die. I chug my flask of Mountain Dew and draw my blade for Sudoku. Nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka, nani baka. The battle rages on and on until I draw my final breath. Then I catch the glint of euphoria as I fall into my death. Through the power of God and anime, I gain the tendies in my wrath. In this moment I'm truly euphoric. I journey further down my path. Many